What is going on, everybody? King Recon here. And it is that time of the year where we sit down and look back on all of the greatness, all of the awesome sauce that the best-selling manga in history has provided for us. And there's been a lot of this year, man. There's been a lot of one of these, two of these, three of these. I mean, it's just been a magnificent, marvelous year for our beloved best-selling manga in history. And what better day to look back on all of these chapters, on all of these legendary moments and weekly experiences than on New Year's Eve, man. And so I hope each and every single one of y'all watching this video today have a fantastic New Year's and a wonderful 2023, because undoubtedly, here in this community, we're gonna have a special one, man. I can guarantee that just based on the trajectory in which we are currently in. Our 2023, in both the manga and the anime, which I'm planning on doing one of these for the anime very soon as well, but just for the manga, it is going to be an extremely special experience next year. And so, all the best to each and every single one of y'all in 2023. God bless y'all, and let's get right into my personal list for my favorite chapters of the year. And then right after that is done, we'll get into the results for all of your favorite chapters of the year, man. It's going to be a Santa hat level discussion. Let's get right into it. I can only imagine how difficult it was for each and every single one of you to make this list. For me, it was nearly impossible. I have a billion different choices here. My list starts at number 12, and I have like 17 chapters on here, all right? There's a couple ties. The most difficult thing about making this list was without a doubt attempting to disassociate certain chapters from others. Because for me, there are certain chapters that come as a package where in my heart, it's like I can't break them apart. They are a part of that legendary part of the experience where I was like, I can't do it. I can't break them apart. And so that's why I have so many chapters here. But most of them are in single, right? Most of them come as a single chapter. But there are just certain ones where I'm just like, I couldn't do it. So starting us off here, ladies and gentlemen, with my own personal list. Once again, we're going to get into the community voted results directly after this list. But for my personal list, starting us off at number 12, ladies and gentlemen, not at number 10, not at number 11, number 12 is chapter 1062. The beginning of the Egghead Island greatness. Now, technically, the arc begins in chapter 1061. It's where we're first introduced, like, the Lilith Vegapunk and what have you, and getting into the island and whatnot. But what I love so much about 1062 is the adventure of blank chapter. Almost every single adventure in the land of blank or adventure of blank, whatever it is in One Piece, tends to be one of my favorite chapters in the introductory section of the arc, just because it's our first experience, our first exposure. You cannot have that at a second time, right? Like, that your first time looking at the island, looking at an island in One Piece is a very special experience. No matter what arc it is, I always remember the first time I saw an island with my own two eyes and be like, oh, so this is where we're going next. This is where we are now. And even though we already knew we were heading into Egghead thanks to chapter 1061 and what was taking place in 1060, seeing it with my own two eyes, this futuristic, Futurama-looking place that looks like Tomorrowland and Epcot, I was like, nah, this is incredible. It was classic One Piece all around, with Luffy and Bonnie shenanigans, Jinbei and Chopper being hilarious, and then ending off the chapter on Robert D. Lucci and the rest of the squad, and getting more into Rob Lucci's internal conflict with what's currently taking place around the world. I love this chapter. It got some Zoro greatness as well earlier on. Of like, hey, Vegapunk, man, I got a request for you, you know? And Vegapunk hyping up Robin and Zoro is a moment I'll always enjoy. But it's mainly for seeing the island with my own eyes for the first time. I'll never forget that experience with any arc. But the fact that coming off of Wano, all of us were like, what arc we're going to? What island? and then seeing Vegapunk's island, where Vegapunk resides, with my own 2 eyes, and for it to be this futuristic land, I was just like, I could not include this. I remember just having the biggest smile on my face when I first read this chapter, and that's why it's at number 12. My next choice, number 11, it actually was not on my original list. Before my reread, this and the chapter that follows were not on my original list. After my reread, though, a lot of my list changed, but this chapter, without question, was gonna make it to the list, man. And that chapter, coming in at number 11, is chapter 1057, the final chapter of Wano. When I reread from chapter 1036 until at the time I believe we were at chapter 1061, and I did that reread, oh my goodness, man. Oh, actually, I think it was like around 1066. It was somewhere where the reread was. I did it last month, so it was probably like 1066, somewhere around there, 1067. Wherever it was, doesn't matter. When I got to 1057, I tell you, my emotions hit me like triple than they did when the chapter first came out. And when the chapter first came out, I was in legitimate tears, man. I was saying goodbye to these characters that I have been with on this channel for the last decade. You know, both on this channel and the old channel, man. And just, it's the final chapter of Wano, bro. And even though I have my gripes, of course, the way that the Yamato situation was handled, and of course we had the stuff that we'll talk about later in a later chapter that sort of patched things up a bit. But even with that, Luffy declaring Wano as his territory while saying goodbye to Momo, Kinemon, and Yamato, I know for a fact, if that scene on my reread garnered such an incredible emotional response out of me, when I see that in the anime, I'm gonna be, it's over. I might as well not even record a reaction for that episode. I might as well, man. Just to save myself the tears. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna hit extremely hard, man. Like, saying goodbye to these characters we've been with for so long, it hit different. And then going from that section, you cut over to the final part of the chapter, which is my personal favorite part of the chapter. Well, I don't know, that's tough. Because Luffy declaring Wano as his territory of Momonosuke is so special. But the end of the chapter, with all of them having their own curtain call, and they like a classic sitcom, and you have all of the characters from the arc come out and they pose together. Hiyori lets out the line of legend while going. But as I talked about in that week's afterthoughts, the Hiyori scene for me has so much potential for end game consequential stuff for Wano that I will never know how much this chapter, until the series ends, I'm not going to know how high this is going to go up on my list. Whether it'll be an all-time level One Piece arc ending, or if it'll stay where it is right now. But regardless, saying goodbye to all of these characters and having all of those, it's just, I remember it so vividly going through the chapter the first time around and how much it hit. But when I did it on the reread, man, it just hit me triple. And saying goodbye to these characters we've been with for so long, it was just, it hit different, man. It hit different. And so 1057, without a doubt, is my number 11. And following that up at my number 10 for very similar reasons is chapter 1049. Now, when we first started Wano and we reached chapter 918, and Luffy delivered that legendary line to Tama that has been, shown in so many different flashbacks in the anime and the manga, for Luffy's declaration to not only Tama but to the people of Wano that he is going to create a place where they can eat whatever it is that they want. And you know that within his heart, as someone who values other individuals taking time out of their day to give him food, anybody who gives him food is automatically a friend, is automatically someone that he will protect at all costs, because now you have crossed that line of, you allowed me to be able to eat. Right? And Luffy was like, you know what? No one should be able to stop someone else from having delicious meals. So he made it his purpose after that line to whoop Kaido. And so what I love so much about that line is it goes right back to Luffy in chapter 918, in chapter 1049. When he's going in the final shot against Kaido. Within that chapter, obviously, we got the short Kaido flashback that I look forward to seeing the extended version of whenever we get to the rock stuff later down the line. But what we got, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, Kaido greatness, the character that I was fanboying of every single week here on the channel. I love me some Kaido, right? So seeing all the stuff there with him and King and them waiting for Joy Boy and that stuff was great, right? But the final attack, I just could not stop thinking of the first time that I saw the Ogun rifle in the anime. When Luffy went in and absolutely sent NL to the Flagnars with the golden bell ringing behind them. And how epic that was. When I first experienced it, right? And it's still, whenever I go back and read that stuff, it's legendary. But 1049 for me is going to be elevated so much in the anime that whenever I think about it in the anime, it gets me super giddy. Because I'm like, I already know they're gonna go all out with 1049. And so when I think to that double page spread with Luffy telling Kaido, I'm gonna make this place a place where anyone can eat whatever they want. Palo sends him down into the Flagnards in Gear 5 with the Bajrang gun. I mean, I love it. It is 20 years of suffering for the people of Wano and 10 years of me experiencing from Punk Hazard all the way down to Wano Kuni and seeing the final attack delivered to Kaido. This man, the goat with the coat, finally did it. He took out the unbeatable. I remember being there when chapter 795 dropped and we're like, how in the world are we going to defeat this thing? Big Mom and Whole Cake Island, you cannot defeat that thing. And my boy did it from his own abilities in Gear 5th. It was just, I love that chapter, and I know when we get to it in the anime, it is going to be all-time special. Mark my words. 1049, my number 10. Coming in at number 9, you already know this was going to be somewhere on my list. I just didn't know where it was going to be. Momonosuke Greatness. Chapter 1051, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know, we've talked about it so much here on the channel, Momonosuke. And one of these days, I'm going to do like my favorite characters in One Piece list. Momonosuke, undoubtedly, if I do like a top 20, he is in there, and it's no question. No question, one of Oda's greatest characters. I love what he's done with Momonosuke's character journey. And to see the culmination of that with chapter 1051, legitimately, no matter how many times I read through that chapter, it elicits an emotional response out of me. And I know for a fact, when we get to that episode in the anime, and they play the Scabbards music, the Odin music, oh, stop playing. Oh, stop playing. Don't, bro, one of those, like, we all have those moments where when you turn the page, and you'll never forget when you turn the page and saw that. One of those, and there's been a lot of those this year, but one of those is turning the page and seeing adult Momo's form. And it's the way that Oda built it up. Everyone kneeling before him, like the Al Sauchi for Ichigo. And it's just like, yo, he's walking down like he's Kiryu from Yakuza. And everyone's just like, I kneel. Like Reem Schwarzer's walking by. And then you look over to the following panel and it's adult Momo. Peak, dog. I love what Oda did with Momonosuke. But in particular, that chapter was just special. It was just so special. That's Vince McMahon. He was special. Levels of special, man. So 1051, undoubtedly, number 9. Coming in at number 8. Y'all, I remember where I was when I was told earlier on in the week, brother, it's one of those. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, bro, we just started the arc. We just started the arc. And I remember we just come off of 1063, which had us going up in like swim war with Law and Blackbeard. I was like, obviously I have to get off social media for this chapter, right? There's no doubt. But the fact that I was told specifically to get off social media, I was like, what else is this chapter gonna have? So coming in number 8 is chapter 1064. All you need to know, Charlotte Pudding is in this chapter. Not only is Pudding in the chapter, which automatically makes it 40 out of 10 over here. automatically. But the cover page of the chapter has Kuzan in it. I mean, bro, when you start off a chapter and has Kuzan and the cover page, it's gonna be a special one. You flip the page and you have Mr. Z, which once again, Blackbeard, like pudding, automatic 40 out of 10 chapter when any of those characters is in it. You have him and Law going in, Law's crew putting in work. I still can't believe that Shachi and the boys put in as much work as they did in that chapter. Liberation. I mean, it was beautiful. Blackbeard, Law throwing down. And setting up all the greatness, all the potential incoming greatness with what's going to happen after this fight, the consequences of this fight, whether the Big Mom and the squad are going to show up as well to come rescue Pudding, or we still have no idea. We're not going to know the consequences of that, or what's going to happen with Kuzan, right? And Kobe and stuff and stuff like that, thanks to the events that took place with Blackbeard and Law. Because we don't know if Law's gonna escape, if he's gonna get captured, we have no idea. And so ending us off on that cliffhanger, I'll just never forget finishing off there, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then we switch over to Egghead, and Egghead in and of itself was popping off at the time too, and so we're getting Egghead greatness while simultaneously getting the insanity that was happening around the world. And it was just like Oda and the final saga is moving different. And then on top of all of that, to finish off the chapter in the same way we had the Year 4th bubble where it's dark and we have just the speech bubble saying 4. In this chapter, we had the Shaka unit for Vegapunk being like, yo, I don't have much time left. It's time for, you know what, Mr. Dragon. And when he said dragon, oh, bro, that was like one of those moments, you know what I mean? Like, yo, it's... Because up until that point, we had all speculated, is Vegapunk a member of the Revolutionary Army? Is Vegapunk connected to Dragon? And we just did not know. So seeing that final panel was just like, Oda's cooking. Final Saga Oda is different, man. And so 1064 undoubtedly had to make the list. And it's here at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is a chapter that I got fake spoiled on, and I'll never forget that, man. Going into that chapter, coming off of obviously the end of Wano, I was like, man, what are we gonna see first? And I remember I was watching a stream, and somebody said that Hancock was captured. It was like Hancock defeated Kobe, or Hancock captured by Kobe. I don't remember what it was. It was one of the two. But I was just so out of it. I was like, no. And it hurt. I put out a video saying I got spoiled earlier on in the week. And then I remember I hit up Spicy, because Spicy was like, yo, what did you get spoiled on? And then I'd send him the message, and he was just like, oh man, you're gonna love this chapter. I was like, what? So he just didn't say anything else. He was like, yeah, you're gonna have a good time with this one. And so then I read the chapter, and I remember going through the entire chapter. I reached the end, and I was like, the spoiler was fake? The spoiler was fake. So going into this chapter, thinking I got spoiled. And then what I actually got out of this chapter is the goat with the coat being declared an official emperor of the sea with his 9 commanders all receiving new bounties. And you already know any bounty chapter is absolutely legendary. Love the bounty chapters, right? But then we switch over to the rest of the world. And we get to see cross-guild shenanigans. Incredible character dynamics. The flashback as to how the cross-guild was created. Crocodile greatness with Buggy. Mihawk, the Marine Hunter. We get his bounty. We get Mihawk's bounty in this chapter. That is one of those things that whenever you see it, it's just, you'll never forget it. I spent so many years of my fandom wondering what Mihawk's bounty would be, right? And to get in the same chapter, Buggy's bounty, Crocodile's brand new insane bounty. But Mihawk, a man solo dolo out on the seas, rocking 3.5 bill. It's like, brother, this man is different. He's different. And so I was like, yo, I mean, it had Mihawk hype. It had my favorite thing about One Piece, which is the character interactions and the dynamics. I was like, what more do I need? And then the chapter finishes off on Sabo. On Sabo on the Dendenmushi with Dragon before Kuma. Can we get much higher? I mean, bro, yeah, apparently we can, because it's only number 7. This is only number 7 on my list. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a crazy year. It was a crazy year, all right? So, holy flagnards. Then we get down to number 6. And number 6, man, it's difficult for me to believe this isn't in the top 5, but it's the nature of the beast. Coming in at number 6 is right at the center of Egghead Island. We received one of the craziest, one of the most insane reveals in the entire series that we had been talking about leading up to this chapter. After 1065's major reveal about the fact that that Iron Giant came from the past, 1066, all 1066 had to do was deliver upon that statement, and it was going to be peak. But the fact that 1066, my number 6, not only delivered upon that, not only gave us Void Century information that I am still feeding for, the will of Ohara lives on. Nico, Robin, this chapter was like a love letter to my absolute just nostalgia for Water 7 in East Lobby and Nico Robin's journey throughout that arc. Because Volume 41, for me for so many years, was like top dog, or at the very least top 3, and I still believe it probably still is. I love that volume, right? And I love the material in the anime. It's like Season 5, Voyage 2, whatever it is. I love that stuff. The Robin flashback is really, really special to me. So, getting the Saul stuff hit extremely hard, and every time we cut back out and saw Robin's reaction to the Saul stuff, him being the man marked by flames, all that stuff, it was just like, okay, this is beautiful. This is like really, really beautiful stuff, extremely emotional material. But within the same chapter, on top of all the the potential Void Century information, then of course, Robin confirming that Void Century information, the emotional moments there, Saul, all that stuff. Then we cut over to Ohara and see Vegapunk in his actual form, Dr. Recon Punk, mind you. And the creation of the Revolutionary Army thanks to these events, with Monkey D. Dragon showing up. My favorite part about this chapter, besides the obvious emotional through line, right, throughout the entire thing, with Robin and Saul, and of course seeing more stuff for the Void Century coming off of 1065, is the fact that this chapter let us know that the events of what took place, the WG, the Gorosei, not wanting the name of the ancient kingdom to be leaked out, and making the rush decision to immediately eliminate Clover, is going to lead to their downfall. Because what that moment led to was not only what, bringing in the Buster Call and what they believed wiped out Ohara, which would forever, relieve that thorn from their side, they believed. Those actions led to not only the creation of the Revolutionary Army, but to also Nico Robin eventually joining the Straw Hats, which I believe are the 2 biggest factors that are going to lead to the downfall of the Celestial Dragons and the Revolutionary Army and the Straw Hat Pirates. And so it's like, they did this to themselves. And I love how that chapter continued that line that started back in Nico Robin's flashback. And then when we got out of it, with declaring war on the WG. So it's like, love this chapter for what it obviously did from an emotional standpoint and for Void Century stuff, but for that as well, because it goes to show the consequences of the actions of the individuals involved are going to lead to their downfall. And I think that was so cool in the way Oda handled that, and that's why it's at number 6. It's Dragon and Vegapunk, dude. Come on, man. And then on top of that, we get to see Vegapunk's actual form at the end. I mean, bro, what he actually looks like. It was just such a special chapter, man. I'll never, ever forget it, dude. Coming in at number 5, the triple Santa Hat experience, man. Coming off of 1053, where we had received word, the 4 Emperors, Buggy, Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, we head into a 1-month break leading into what we've been told is going to be the first chapter of the final saga. We come back off of that break, and we receive 2 chapters back to back that have Shanks in the chapter. 1054. Opening up that chapter, seeing the insanity, seeing the stuff taking place within the celebration at the end of Wano that all of us have been wanting to see, right? Continuing all of that. But Brother Shanks was in the chapter. Bro, Shanks was in the chapter. Sure, Green Bull was pulling up and interrupting stuff, but dog, when we switched to where it said outside of Wano and I saw the ship, oh man, it was over. From that point on, it was over. Then we got the flashback from Shanks' perspective as to how he acquired the Gomu Gomu no Mi from Who's Who, and I was like, whoa. And then he delivers the line where he's like, yo, Beck, let's go claim the One Piece. And I was like, nah, I'm done. I'm done. And so I was already on an extreme, like, yo, Shanks, let's get it, Triple Santa at peak. But then we continue the chapter. And we get, as the first chapter in the final saga, the confirmation to the setup that we had since chapter 9. Actually, no, before that. Since chapter 800 and what was that? 23. When Vivi initially set off for the Reverie. Right at the end of the Zoe arc, where we saw Vivi with Cobra being like, we're going straight to the Reverie. All the way from back then. Set up from then. Paying off right then and there with us seeing exactly what took place. With Vivi missing, Cobra assassinated, and that the main man himself, who is quote-unquote responsible for this, is currently being known around the world as the Flame Emperor and the representative of the Revolutionary Army. So in one chapter, I get Green Bull pulling up to Wano. I get Shanks stating he's gonna go after the One Piece. Well, like I said, man. And then Sabo with Akainu declaring at the end of the chapter it's time for us to have bro. And then on top of all that greatness, we follow it up with, like I said, I this is as a package. So this one is for number 5 is both 1054 and 1055. Because we follow that chapter up with Momonosuke and Yamato greatness defending the land of Wano, with of course the rest of the Scabbards there as well, but they both were the main stars of the show there. And so you have them both going up in like swimwear, and this man Shanks, from all the way on his ship, unleashes such a massive Conqueror's Hockey Discord Google Hangout strike that this man Green will put up his hands quicker than anyone I've ever seen and was like, whoa, I didn't know y'all were here. I'm out. And you know something? This was in the canon manga material the first time we ever saw Shanks do an attack, and it was a Conqueror's Hockey strike from halfway across the planet. Oh, man, if I could just explain to y'all how hyped that was. I mean, you lived it. And the fact that Momonosuke let out a blast breath in this chapter. But dog, Shanks great. Oh my, and then after the Shanks greatness, after the Discord Hockey greatness, yo, are you not afraid of the new era? Green Bull shook. I'm out of here. We switch over to go with the code Sanji, Zoro, and Jinbei, and they were just hearing this all go down. They're like, oh, we don't gotta move. We chilling. One of my favorite panels in the entire series. The boys hanging out with an admiral on their doorstep, not a single sweat going down their foreheads, showcasing the difference now post Wano, how much they have changed and how much they'd be able to deal with here and now, where an admiral showing up their doorstep is just like, oh, they took care of it, we good, we don't gotta move back, we don't gotta move at all, we don't have to move at all. My boy was eating a shish kebab, talking about that was a strong hockey strike. Yeah, It seems familiar. I love that chapter. Dude, I love those 2 chapters so much. And I'll tell you what, these 2 chapters were very difficult for me to rank because, of course, they were coming off of the 1-month break. So you had the 1-month break hype. You're coming back, 2 elite chapters. I got to see Shanks for 2 back-to-back chapters. Monster Trio hype with Jinbei. And I love this chapter. These 2 chapters are so special. And the fact they kicked off the post-Wano stuff, heading us into the final saga, I'll never forget that experience. And that's where they came as a package, man. I just still can't believe it, you know? This man Shanks legitimately used the hockey strike. It's peak fiction, bro. Peak fiction. Coming in at number 4. Where do I even begin, bro? Y'all know how I start sometimes, and I'm like, any chapter with blank is a 40 out of 10. Any chapter with blank is a 40 out of 10. Dog, chapter 1059 has Shanks, Marco, Hancock, Rayleigh, Blackbeard. I'm not making this stuff up, bro. It's not fan fiction. You start off the chapter with Marco saying goodbye to Shanks on the ship. I see Lucky Roo eating meat. Oh, I was ready to start going crazy. Oh, man. Then we switch over. And I get my closure with Yamato, which I was feeding for. I got my closure with Yamato and the goat with the coat. Then I also got Luffy talking to Marco about saving him from Marineford, which I was so happy to get that as well. So I got those 2 moments back to back with Yamato and Marco. Directly after seeing Marco coming off of Shanks' ship, I was already losing my mind. We cut over to Amazon Lily. Hancock. Hancock has become one of those characters for me. All right, one of those like 40 out of 10 characters in it. So it's like we covered Amazon Lily. We were like, so the chapter is titled the matter involving Captain Kobe. So it's like, okay, what's going on here, right? So we cut over. We get to see Hancock, and she's bandaged up. Obviously, stuff has gone down. So it's like, okay, what's going on? So the mystery is adding up. Classic Oda storytelling. We cut over to a couple days ago. Blackbeard pulls up to Amazon Lily. Granted, the WG is already here. This is Kobe invading. This is Kobe already attempting to come to some sort of agreement with Boa Hancock about the situation at hand, right? So he's over here calling out to her. It's like, okay, stuff is popping up. Blackbeard pulls up. Not only Blackbeard, though, y'all. Blackbeard pulls up, he's going in, and someone's like, yo, who is that individual with the brown skin? And naturally, I looked at myself in the camera. I was like, are they talking about me? Are they talking about me? And he was like, no, because he's got a blade, and it's not any blade, just any blade. It's not just any blade. I didn't catch it until the post chapter stream, which will probably be one of the most memorable moments in our stream's history, when my entire chat, I kid you not, on my analytics, there's a chat rate, right? So it'll show you like not necessarily like the chat itself, but it'll show you like how fast the chat's going. You guys spammed Kid Hawk so much that I think my chat rate said like 162. I've never seen it that high. What that means is there was like 162 or like 160 something messages happening in seconds of one another. I was like, I was in shock. When I saw and looked at the side, it literally said Kid Hawk, Kid Hawk, Kid Hawk, Kid Hawk. I was like, what is going on? So you get introduced to the Seraphim units, finally, after all these years of wondering, what are the SSG? What are these individuals? What could possibly replace the Warlords? Robotic versions of the Warlords. As we see Mihawk and Hancock, child versions of them, going in with Lunarian flames. And it's like, what in all of Onigashima is going on? Then we go over, we cut to Blackbeard, who has Hancock up like he's the Undertaker. And Kobe's just sitting there watching this all take place. We get Hancock greatness laying down her ground and being like, yo, I will let go of all of your people as long as y'all get the Flagnards off of my island. And Kobe and Blackbeard are like, all right, go back. We're going to get our people back. We'll come to an agreement there. But then Blackbeard, being the savage he is, kept going up in like Summer. Who shows up, Rayleigh? As if the chapter could not get more insane. As if the chapter could not get more insane. In the midst of all that insanity, Rayleigh shows up and pulls the Shanks and is like, yo, it's over. Get out. Pack your bags. The Dark King? Whoa. Pack him up. We're out of here. And I mean, I love how really at the end of the chapter, and then we got the Shocky reveal about Shocky actually being the princess from Amazon Lily. That was a major reveal. It made so much make sense. So much stuff made sense after that reveal. For how stuff had taken place in like Sabaody, Return to Sabaody, and the post Marineford stuff. It was like everything makes sense now. Everything makes sense. And so, but Rayleigh at the end of the chapter being like, man, if I would have actually like fought him, I don't know if I would have won. Like, I'm glad that he pulled out when he did, because if not, it would have been over. And then of course Kobe at the end of the chapter stating that he was captured. It was just, and then the fact that the sisters were like, and Margaret, they were like, oh man, the one of those really did look like Big Sis, except looked like a child version of her. And so I was like, oh my goodness, the Seraphims are the warlords. And then like I said, I looked over at the chat and I saw y'all spamming Kid Hawk, and I was like, oh no, Hancock and Mihawk. And dog, it was a chapter that was so special. From the moment that the chapter started until the end, that I'll never forget this experience. One of the all-time great post-arc chapters in the history of the series. And it set up so much for the future, right? Like, we know down the line, Hancock, Rayleigh, and them are going to get involved thanks to this incident. We know this Kobe incident is having modern day repercussions. Like, we are seeing the consequences of that event already taking place around the world, right? And even just within Egghead. So it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And of course, you know, like I said, getting the closure for the Marco stuff and Yamato, and I love this chapter. And 1059 is just, it's a special one. It's one of those weekly experience chapters, and so that's why it's here at number 4. Coming in at number 3. This shouldn't surprise anyone. Chapters 1069 and 1070 of the best-selling manga in history. I think overall as chapters, if I were to just put them as chapters, like whole chapters, I'd probably have them below like 1059. Like, it's Gear 5. Bro, my bias to Gear 5 will not allow me to put this anywhere lower than this. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Like I said, I 1059 for me as an overall chapter, I'd put above this. I really would. But the experience of going through 1069 and 1070, for me, after I finished chapter 1049, the thing I wanted to see most, more than Shanks, more than Void Sentry stuff, more than all the craziness on the outside of the world, I just wanted to see Gear 5 again. I wanted to see Gear 5 with every fiber in my being. That's what I wanted to see the most. And for my wish to be granted within the same year, not against just any opponent, mind you, against Robert D. Lucci. And we get Gear 5 Luffy against Awakened Robert D. They are doing the exact same clashes that we saw in the original fight in Enies Lobby. It was just perfection. It was perfection. Listen, and then in the same chapter as Gear 5 versus Lucci, within the same panel and spread, fruits equal desire. We get our biggest clue to anything involving the origin of fruits in the entire series, straight from Vegapunk's mouth. And what I love so much about that scene is that it's Vegapunk letting the Straw Hats know exactly who they have here. That the individual before them, this white warrior of liberation, is actually Nika. And it's like seeing the rest of their reactions to that, Robin being shook, and then following that up with thematic brilliance as to how Oda has created his power system with hockey and fruits. The manifestation of one's will being hockey, and the manifestation of one's desire being fruits. And all of the stuff in my mind of how the Void Century flashback that poured out during that post-chapter discussion, thanks to that reveal from Vegapunk is something I will never forget. That is such a special chapter, man. I love 1069. The fact that the intensity continues to go up with the S units coming in, Sentomaru coming in, Lucci ending off the chapter with poning Sentomaru, and then we follow with 1070 with Gear 5 Luffy at just his absolute wackiest against Lucci. It was so good. Enjoyed every single second of it. And then we go and we see Kizaru is on the way. It's like, man, it's legendary, it's incredible. It's Gear 5. That's all I need for it to be number 3. It's all I need. And the fact that we got all this stuff with fruits, it's like, come on, man. It's special stuff. And so that's why it's here at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we've gotten into favorite chapters of all time territory. Undisputed. Undisputed. My number 2 is undoubtedly one of the most monumental chapters in the entire series, and the pinnacle of post-Wano content, and potentially might be the greatest post-arc chapter for me. And that is chapter 1060, which is titled Luffy's Dream. This chapter I don't even know where to begin, man. This chapter is like all-time special for... Y'all, we started the chapter. You're seeing the reactions with the crew, what's happening with Sabo. And it's like, man, Luffy's determination to want to go do something about it. Zoro's like, you'll believe in Sabo. And then we cut over. And Luffy declares his dream to the entire Straw Hat crew in what is undoubtedly one of the greatest double page spreads in the entire series. The amount of goosebumps that I got reading that section, my first time around and on the full reread, is what really put this at my number 2. Because especially when I reread it and it sunk in, that chapter, that page really signaled for me that One Piece is coming to an end. It felt like that panel, that page, is only going to have payoff in potentially the final volume of the series. Because what Luffy states is after he becomes Pirate King, this dream, this thing is possible. It felt like Oda was setting up the final chapter of the series with this one. And it just brought so many emotions, seeing how each and every single one of the Straw Hat crew responded. Even the Sunny responded to Luffy's dream. And it is one of the most emotional moments in the entire series for me. And when it gets to this scene in the anime, don't even get me started. But I feel like if I were to make one of the most emotional moments in the series list, this would be there. This would be there because not only is it a signal to the end, but it's like the ultimate I love the Straw Hat Pirates scene. Where even when Luffy is at his absolute wildest, with declaring something we can't even imagine, the rest of the crew is like, that fits you. And they either laugh, like they did for, like Roger and them did for Joy Boy, or like how Sabo and Ace did with Luffy, or like how Whitebeard and Oda did with Roger, or how they laughed at Joy Boy at Laugh Tale. They laughed, but they said, yo, that's possible. And it reminded me back in chapter 1000 when Yamato said, I will not laugh at that. How could I laugh at that? And it just, I love that scene so much that I genuinely think it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. It just has everything going for it. And when the title of the chapter is Luffy's Dream, and I remember when I read that title of the chapter, I just paused for a little bit because I thought this was going to be it. Like, our time to figure it out. And what I got instead was something way better than just figuring it out then and there. I got the rest of the Straw Hat Crew's reactions to that, which we had not gotten yet. And that to me is irreplaceable. And it was just such an incredible page turn. And then what follows that is one of the most intense sequences in the entire series, with the Marijoa declaring, bro, normally we would get an Oda box that would take us to the Marijoa. Oda said, who? What? This is Final Saga me we're talking. We cut over to the Marijoa, and we see the Gorosi are talking about, oh, how unlucky. It's Leloucia. Sabo's hiding Leloucia. It's just a matter of fate. We see Instant Messenger Sama for the first time in chapter 908. We cut over to Leloucia. We see this massive UFO, ancient weapon looking thing in the sky. It's one of the spookiest panels in the whole series. And then, whoosh, whoosh. Oh my god, bro, that dope spread, dog. When all the strikes hit Leloucia, it never existed to begin with. Sabo is screaming at the top of his lungs at Dragon and the rest of them that, listen to me. This is not a drill. I'm not playing games here. In the Holy Land, there is an empty throne that's not empty. And he's going on this spiel, and right as he's about to deliver the final message, just as Clover was going to back in the Ohara flashback, they're like, that's enough. Boom! It never existed to begin with. But the chapter doesn't end there, of course not. It's Oda. The chapter doesn't end there. We cut back to the Straw Hat ship. They're in the middle of chaos in the sea, close to Egghead Island, and Jewelry Bonnie falls out of the sky in classic Oda fashion, setting us up for the next arc in this series. It is without a doubt the greatest, potentially the greatest post-arc chapter I have ever read in One Piece. It had my favorite aspects of 903, my favorite aspects of 908, my favorite aspects of some of the greatest pre-time skip post-arc chapters. It had it all while also setting up the next arc. Instant Messenger Sama wiping out Lucia is something I'll never forget. The intensity of that moment cannot be replicated. At least for now. But the fact that this chapter had Luffy declaring his dream to the rest of his crew will forever have this as an all-time chapter until we see what Luffy's dream actually is and him accomplishing that dream. And then we'll look back on this chapter and realize, look back on Nami's reaction, Zoro's reaction, Sanji's, the rest of the crew, as they're all in awe of what Luffy had just stated. And when we figure out exactly what it is, this chapter will only be elevated. When we figure out what the ancient weapon or whatever the flying flagner and Instant Messenger Sama used to wipe out Lucia, this chapter will only be elevated. And so, 1060, man. One of the greatest chapters in the entire series and undoubtedly worthy of being number 2. Then coming in number 1, y'all already knew it was coming. It was obvious from the start. It is the greatest weekly experience I have ever had, bar none, in any series, as long as I've been reading manga, since I first discovered the what manga is with Naruto in 2005 or 6, whatever it was, Naruto Central. Chapters 1042, 1043, 1044, and 1045. Of course, if I just had to pick one of them, I would pick 1043 and 1044. 1044 is my favorite chapter, might be in the entire series. And 1043 comes in a solidified package with it, and I believe 1045 does as well. But like I said, 1044 is my chapter of the year undeniably, but right as a 1.5, I have to give it to chapter 1043 and 1045. And 1042 has to be here too because of its legendary thing. If I didn't have 1042 here, all of these chapters would have been on the list, but I had them all number one. So like, I'll give you a quick example. 1042 would have been probably like anywhere between like 6 to 10. 1045 would have been top 5. 1043 would have been top 5. And 1044, obviously, it was going to be number one no matter what. So here's the thing. It's just, man. Going from 1042 with its goated peak panel choreography. We had been waiting to see Luffy in Gear 4 boxing Kaido because they had been in base form for so long. And the last time we saw him go into Gear 4 was that little tidbit in 1025, and then of course during the original Roof Piece stretch. But then we cut over here, we say he's gonna use Gear 4 for the last time in 1041. 1042, they're boxing. I mean, it is boxing at the highest level. The highest level. Finishing off the chapter with a special guest referee. Shout out to Randy Troy with Scarfino coming in. And Luffy gets taken out. One of the craziest cliffhangers. Go to 1043. 1043 has Luffy wiped out with the box on top stating that Kaido is the victor. Something I will never forget during the page 2. Then we get Kaido's speech as he goes down to the live floor and declares that he has won. And everyone here is going to turn into his property. Love it for Kaido. Incredible chapter for Kaido as a menace, as a villain. I was like, yes, Kaido greatness. And then everyone's reactions to the fact they could not believe Luffy had been taken out. And then we cut over to Yamato. And Yamato has arguably my favorite Yamato moment in the entirety of Onigashima. Besides the 10-15 stuff in the anime, but I'm talking about the manga, right? The manga right next to the I will not laugh at him scene. Yamato, an individual who has been chained up for so long, knows exactly what the terror of Kaido is, more than the people of Wano, more than Momonosuke. Momo just wants to give up and be like, that's it, we're done. And Yamato refusing to go back to those times, now with a glimpse of freedom before her, states, we're not doing that. Momonosuke, I am gonna stand right here next to you. And like the title of the chapter states, we're gonna face death together. Let's face it together. But I'm not going into a life of surrender against Kaido. I'm gonna be free. I am going to be free. What are you going to do, Momonosuke? I am going to be free. If you're just gonna die anyway, if you're gonna let your life go to waste, then why not try fighting until the end? And if you do that, I will stay here with you and we'll die together. As someone that Oda chose to embody what it means to yearn for freedom with every fiber in your being, this was a phenomenal character moment for Yamato. And what pushed Momonosuke over the edge to do what he would eventually do within this final stretch of the arc. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful scene, man. I cannot wait to see this scene in the anime. And what's so brilliant thematically is that Yamato yearning for freedom, yearning to want to leave this life of being in chains and of course go back to those times under Kaido. We cut over. boom boom doo 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 doo. Peak fiction. Doo 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 doo. The drums of liberation are playing for all of Onigashima to hear. And Zunisha states, this is a sound I haven't heard in so long. Joy boy. Oh no, I gotta read it verbatim. Momonosuke, I can hear it. How long it's been. What is it, Zunisha? I hear the drums of liberation for the first time in 800 years. He is here. Who is? Joy boy has returned. And we get the goose scene with Luffy, which, oh my, bro, our stream cut off that night. And that was the only time in the history of my channel, at least the first time in the history of my channel, I did an afterthoughts. The same night I did the chapter reaction. We were up until like 4 a.m. that night. Talking about this stuff. Dog, 1043 might be my favorite cliffhanger in the entire series. It was so insane. So insane, man. I will never forget turning those pages. We just had no idea what would come next. And what came next? What happened after that is the greatest chapter I have ever read weekly, man. The craziest chapter reading experience I have ever had. With chapter 1044's The Warrior of Liberation. A perfectly constructed masterclass of a chapter that has Luffy starting off. He's like, yo, why am I still going? Oh, my heart feels funny. See him going up in like swimwear. Everybody's like, yo, what in the world is that? Is that the king? Is that the goat with the goat? Luffy, is that you? Is that the goat with the coat? And then we switch over to the Holy Land. Go. Zenith of the Medium, greatest of all time. Peak fiction. If I could only use peak fiction for one thing ever, I'm using it right here, right now. Right here, right now. This is not a drill. This is peak fiction, the chapter. Capital peak, capital fiction. We go over to the Holy Land. And the Gorosei are discussing the Nika no Mi, the mythical Zoan fruit. And we get the iconic panel of Luffy doing the thing. Oh no! And we get the declaration of what he has. The world's most ridiculous power that recontextualizes everything that we had ever thought we knew about One Piece. What his awakening does, man. Oh, dude, we caught over. And we see Hiyori deliver an incredible moment and a phenomenal page right there with Hiyori. They're like, shut your mouth, you knave. Oh, glorious stuff there with Orochi. We finish off, and what does Luffy say, bro? Oh my goodness, dude. Yo. Hold on. We got over it. Verbatim. I can do everything I wanted to do. I think I can fight a bit longer. My heartbeat sounds so funny. This is the pinnacle of what I can do. This is my peak. This is Gear 5, man. That panel. Zenith. The Zenith. Goat Raw Fire Peak. Period. Kaido is shook. A massive hand comes down, raises him up. All we see is Popeye the Sailor Man. His eyes popping out of his head. He's swirling them around. His peak fiction, bro. It is the greatest thing ever made, bro. He goes and he's just like, and you see his eyes popping out. It's like, yo, what's going on? Then he's pumping him up and down like he's a cartoon character. Like, what is happening? Luffy's having the time of his life. Blast breath. Eyes pop out. Magic cylinder. And it's like, what is going on? And then we get the most iconic panel of the year. And one of the most iconic panels in the entire series. The panel that has been replicated time and time again. I mean, bro, it's peak fiction, y'all. There's no other word for it. It is undoubtedly, I will never forget, reading the chapter. We had 1,000 people in here talking about this chapter in the post stream. And then once we got off of that, which was an all-time stream, And then getting on Twitter, because I didn't sleep that night, getting on Twitter and just seeing all of the fan art, the trending worldwide. One Piece had all 10 of the trends. It was like Luffy, Gear 5, 1044, One Piece 1044, Peak Fiction. I mean, it was like the whole thing. I had never seen something like that before in my entire existence being a One Piece fan. It was insane. The French police were talking about it. It was on the national news. We had individuals like RDC talking about Gear 5. We had I think it was Axe body spray, Popeye the Sailor Man. I mean, bro, we had everyone. We had people I never even knew were into One Piece saying One Piece is peak fiction. I mean, it was the craziest week I had ever seen of being a One Piece fan. It was everywhere. You couldn't escape it. That panel of Gear 5, it had like a million different colorings. I saw a bunch of different, it was just peak. The overall experience is why I read One Piece weekly. It's why the weekly One Piece experience is unmatched. The 1044 week is why this weekly experience is so addicting. For weeks like that, we live for weeks like that. And up until this point, that was the pinnacle of weeks like that. Undoubtedly, the greatest weekly experience I have ever had, period. From the thematic brilliance of what Gear 5 is as a transformation, the incredible recontextualization of the entire series up until that point, of course leading up to what was taking place with the Who's Who stuff and Nika and the slow build there, just exploding there with that. And God, the incredible Luffy Tunes shenanigans. And then finishing us off with 1045 in the legendary action chapter of legend with Luffy going giant form and using the some old iconic moves and his new Gear 5 status, going Gear 2nd to get himself back into Gear 5, declaring he's going to be king of the pirates within that state, Pony Kaido. I mean, Kaido calling it a comic strip. Just the choreography of the pages, everything, man. It's Gear 5, bro. And it was just that stretch to me. I can't. I don't know what to say, bro. That is why I'm a One Piece fan. You know, all these years of reading the series weekly, all I want are moments like that. Because I can find phenomenal storytelling if I just go and go to my local library and get like an incredible piece of literature, right? I can get my incredible characterization or my intense plots and plot twists, or I can go on Netflix if I want to get like really immersed in a situation. I can find that anywhere. I can find those moments and situations in any other medium. What I will never be able to find, no matter where I look, is the weekly experience of this manga, man. The moments this series provides, for me who has so much personal investment in this stretch of chapters embodies all of that. It is something that cannot be found anywhere else, and that is why this stretch is my number one and why I can't dissociate them from one another. Because it was just the most special time to be caught up to the One Piece series. I've never been more grateful to be caught up to One Piece than I was during those 4 weeks. It was just special, and I'll never, ever forget it, man. Just like the Roof Piece stretch, I will be looking back on this when I'm like 80 years old in a rocking chair, sitting back and forth, telling my grandkids about the day that Luffy turned Gear 5. I mean, it was just special, man. I'll never, ever forget it, bro. And that is my favorite chapters of the year, ladies and gentlemen. The time has come to reveal the results for all of your favorite One Piece chapters of 2022. This is an exciting one considering that we started off this year with chapter 1036, that Zoro greatness, and ended it with chapter 1070 according to the official release calendar utilized by Weekly Shonen Jump magazine in Japan. From 1036 to 1070 with that GOAT, with the GOAT greatness in Egghead Island. This year saw some of the greatest moments, some of the greatest chapters in the entire series. We saw the end of Wano. We sailed into the final saga, starting off with post-Wano. And now, we journey through this incredible adventure in Egghead Island. And ever since 1036, it has just been non-stop back to back to back to back to back, seemingly bangers. It's been a year that I will never forget. I will always cherish many of my weekly experiences this year. And I thank each and every single one of you for being here with me. We also transitioned into doing streams this year full time for the very least the chapter reactions. And to see so many of y'all coming on and supporting the streams, it really meant a lot to me. So I appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart, man. It's been a magnificent one, and I look forward to an even better 2023. But before we even get there, it's time to tally up the results. But before I do that, last year's winner was chapter 1010, the Conqueror's Coding chapter, which with the runner-up being the Red Rock chapter in chapter 1000. The Conqueror's Coding chapter, though, was our chapter of the year for 2021. What is going to be our chapter of the year for 2022? I'm sure we all know what it is, but allow me to reveal the top 10 voted by all of you, both here on YouTube and over on Twitter. Coming in at number 10 with 261 points is chapter 1069, All Things Are Brought Into This World with Hope. Coming in at number 9 with 278 points is chapter 1055, The New Era. Coming in at number 8 with an astounding only one more point than the previous entry is chapter 1054 with 279 points. Coming in at number 7 with 326 points is chapter 1066, The Will of O'Hara. Coming in at number 6 with 345 points, it's all of our favorite episode of the Looney Tunes. It's your favorite episode of Tom and Jerry, and my favorite episode of the Flintstones. Chapter 1045, titled Next Level. Coming in at number 5 with 385 points, a chapter that saw a cover page with Katakuri and Avin boxing in it. It is chapter 1059, The Matter Involving Captain Kobe. Coming in at number 4 with 409 points is chapter 1058, New Emperors. Before I reveal the top 3, please give me your predictions on what you believe the top 3 is going to be right now in the comments section here on the live chat. I'll wait a few seconds and we'll hop right into the top 3 chapters of 2022 as voted by all of you. Everybody have their votes in? Perfect. Let's get right into number 3 with 440 points. The chapter that spawned the drums of peak fiction. Chapter 1043, Let's Face Death Together, aka the Drums of Liberation. Coming in at number 2 with an astounding 739 points is chapter 1060, a title that I still can't believe exists within our series, Luffy's Dream. And coming in at number 1, let's get a drum roll, please. 1044. It could not have been anything else. With an astounding near 700 point difference from number 2 to number 1. By far, the chapter of the year as voted by our community, as it should be, is chapter 1044, Peak Fiction, aka The Warrior of liberation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this marvelous and magnificent year. Nothing but the greatest and happiest of New Years to each and every single person watching this video. Please let me know your own personal lists. If you have not submitted yours already, down in the comment section down below, I'm very much looking forward to seeing anyone's list that did not have the opportunity to submit theirs in the original ranking. I would still love to read the greatness this year, and what you would rank this year's greatness. If you are satisfied with the overall community results, or if you have a comment on one of my own lists as well. I am very, very excited to look at the comment section on this one, but this has been 2022's chapter of the year. Chapter 1010 can now give its title to chapter 1044, which is going to hold the throne until we do this again next year. I hope all of you have an awesome sauce of a day. Thank you for such an incredible 2022, and I look forward to seeing all of y'all next year for what is bound to be a legendary year for our best-selling manga in history. Clark Kent may need to watch his back, because this year, the stuff we're gonna see this year, that's his kryptonite. I'll see y'all then. The goat with the coat is gonna go in there like swimwear this year. Is this where we go to the moon? Are we going to Elbaf? What's next for the best-selling manga in history? I can't wait to experience that with each and every single one of y'all. Have a good one, take care, and a fantastic New Year's to each and every single one of y'all. Thank you so much for everything.